Hello and welcome to the IDL. My name's Nick, and this is the worst draft. On today's episode, I've got two light topics to talk about, mostly. Nothing that are really as completed as the last games I was talking about. So, for the first one we're going to talk about, I want to jump into a game I'm working on called Mon of War. It is a monster catching ttrpg. It is not setting finished by any means. I was for a while trying to decide if I wanted to make it a video game or not. I have to build up the ttrpg first because that's going to help me build out the system no matter what I do with it. But if I made it into a video game, the setting would be very different than what I think I would do with it if it wasn't. So it's just mostly me trying to figure out what I want to do with it first before I make the setting for sure. But I have a good idea of the main system. I just have to get a lot of little details down that I don't already have. The idea is you are a person who is going out catching monsters, very much a Pokemon-inspired game, a Digimon-inspired game, something like that. All those monster catching stuff. So the base system that we have here is called the Steam Engine, and that stands for Smarts, Tough, Energy, Action, and Move. Those 5 stats alone can be used to make skill checks, right? So if you're trying to jump over something, you might roll with your move or something like that. And the way you make any kind of skill check in this game is you take 2d6 plus your stat. So if your move is 4, you'd roll 2d6 plus 4. One of those dice is your monster dice. When you get a 6 on that monster dice, you have a critical success. And that mostly only matters for combat. I guess I haven't really decided outside of combat how that could work. But I think whatever it is, maybe I should add out of combat degrees of success or something like that, because in combat there's not really a degree of success type deal to it. So I'm still a little unsure how I want to go about that. Yeah, so a lot with these moves, a lot of these stats, you have derived stats that you use. So you get some skills checks, and those mostly apply to also if you're your human character, right? Your human character uses the same stats, so they mostly just get to do that kind of stuff for their skill checks. But otherwise, you have your derived stats, which basically all 5 of these stats get mixed and matched into different ways to create your derived stats. Obviously, that's what a derived stat is. So, for instance, your hit points is your toughness plus your toughness again plus 10, and then everything will be plus your level. So if you have a monster who's level 1, everything will be plus 1. If you have a monster that's level 12, everything's plus 12. So your hit points is how much damage you can take before fainting or dying or whatever you want to do, however you want to play your game. Again, I haven't done the setting yet, so I don't know how I feel about it. Death in the game. There's stress points, which is your toughness plus your smarts plus 10 plus your level. Stress points are points you use to use your techniques. Every monster, every human can use techniques. And these techniques are kind of like your bread and butter of the combat, and those stress points determine how much techniques you can use, because each technique will have a cost. There are some techniques that have 0 cost, so you can keep using those even without stress points, but the stress points in general kind of limit and make you have to pick and choose how you want to use your techniques. There's another derived stat is evasion. So this is, I guess you have your defensive derived stats now. So there's evasion, there's physical defense, and there's energy defense. Evasion, first of all, when someone tries to attack you, they have to use an accuracy roll, which is 2d6 plus your smarts, and that number has to get above the evasion number. If that's the case, you hit. Then, when you're attacking, you do... each technique has a dice associated with it, a dice pool. So it might be like a d4, it might be 2d6, something like that. So you roll that tech dice plus either action, energy, or smarts, depending on the type of attack it is, whether it's physical, energy, or status move. So you just roll that, and then you subtract from that number the physical or energy defense. So you have your defensive ones, you have to roll higher than evasion, and physical and energy reduces the amount of damage you take. Then you have your accuracy roll, which is 2d6 plus smarts, to see if you could hit against the evasion, and then you have your physical energy and status abilities or techniques that you roll the listed tech die plus your stat, and you're trying to get more than their defense so you can get some sort of damage going. Then everyone has speed. That's how many hexes you can move in a turn. I'm very hex focused. I love a good hex. Did not add hexes into the last 2 games I made. I made ranges or like areas and square based, but I love hexes. So this game is a hex game. And then initiative is when you act in the round. However, I'm still iffy on initiative. I'm not sure how I feel about initiative yet. And I'll get to that when I go over techniques and why I think that is an interesting thing. Then there's stealth, which is your ability to move unnoticed, influence, your ability to control and change others, chase, your ability to long distance move, athletics, ability to interact with the world, and XP is a derived stat. That's how much XP you give out when you're defeated. So that way it's really based on the individual Pokemon, whether or not they were good for fighting or not. Just to make sure it's plus their level. So it's like, it's XP is energy plus level. So if they have a lot of energy, that means they have a lot of experience to give out. If they're higher level, they have a lot of experience to give out. If they're low energy, you at least have their level to help you give out XP. Before I lay down info about the monsters, let's get into the trainer stuff. That'll be a little bit quicker, and then we can move into the monsters, and the monsters will expand into other things. So, the trainers. Basically, the way any monster or trainer improves is through a thing called growth points. I said XP, but I think that's what I meant. It was growth points. Again, it's still in a rough shape. But basically, growth points and XP are the same thing. So your growth points is how you do it. Levels, to gain levels, you have to spend a certain amount of growth points to get up there. If you want to learn new techniques, you have to spend growth points. It's a very non-linear version of growing. You can upgrade. Every level gives you new stuff too. If you get a level, you get to upgrade 3 of your Steam stats, and you get a free technique when you level up as well. Trainers start out much weaker than other Pokemon. Pokemon, god damn it. Monsters. I mean, whatever. Like I said, it's very much Pokemon inspired. But it started out with me trying to stat out Pokemon, and I was like, no, I want to make my own game. I want to do my own thing. Statting out 1,000 Pokemon sounds like a nightmare. So it started out that way. But so for the trainers, they start out with weaker stats than all of the monsters. And you get to assign your stats as well. Whereas each monster has a specific base stat that they are associated with. Trainers gain XP from winning battles, doing milestone events, doing different things. So it's like basically living and existing in the world. You get opportunities to do it, and different trainers have different archetypes. So for instance, like they have different classes. So like they have the ace, they have the teamster, they have the professor, they have the ranger, they have the medic, the idol, the scientist. So like each person has like a class that they're associated with, you're gonna get multiple classes in this game. I'm a major multi-class fan in games, so a lot of my games are like you get classes and they're short and sweet, so that way you can expand out and diversify your character with different archetypes and classes. So, for instance, I'm just gonna go over one of them, the Ace. So the Ace is meant to be good at monster fighting. You, as an Ace, every class gets a dedication edge. Edges are different abilities you get as a person that you can use. They're not techniques per se, so they're just things that you can do. So for instance, the Ace gets their dedication edge, which is that your Pokemon gain 1d4 growth points when they beat another trainer's Pokemon or monster. I wrote in Pokemon in a lot of these places that I just never switched over. So I'm gonna say Pokemon and monster interchangeably. And I do not mean to, but that's just what I have written down. I'm gonna apologize for this like 20,000 times. I'm sure of it. So dedication edge, your monster gains 1d4 growth points when they beat another person's monster. So that just means that you're better in battle. So like every time you're battling other people, that's your chance to get to grow faster as both a trainer and a monster. That's your best bet with that. So then you can earn other edges. You can spend growth points to get these edges. So for instance, the Ace can gain growth points for being another trainer. They get a move or a technique called Strategic Strike. So there are some techniques you can learn this way. So they get Strategic Strike for an action. Your monster gains +1 to accuracy on a commanded action. There's training ones, so you can spend up to 4 hours with a monster to give that monster a bonus of some sort. There's a lot of different classes that have their own version of training, which is like you're spending time with them and you're boosting them in your downtime. So I wanted to go over moves, techniques. So each trainer and each monster get 4 actions in combat. All people go before all monsters, basically. And then monsters go. Well, again, I'm still iffy on the... I'll explain a little bit. I keep saying I'll explain it, why I want to... iffy on initiative ideas so far. But so far, basically, every monster and every trainer gets a specific amount of moves for free, or for techniques that they can use for free. Movement, which is an action to move your speed. Struggle, which is an action, which costs 0 stress points, and it is a physical attack, doing minimal damage. An idea technique, 1 action, learn something new about the situation. Interact, 1 action, interact with something like your doors or taking out items. And bracing, everyone can brace, which is a take for an action, again, the brace condition. I'll briefly go over conditions later, but bracing just adds +1 to your toughness. That's, for the round. So you're basically spending an action to get higher HP and higher defense for the round. I might limit what that means, because I think it's I'm adding it +1 to your toughness, but it's not. I shouldn't do that because your HP will go up, and I don't know if that's just a pain to think about. Okay, so trainers specifically get a special action called Command. So for an action, they can give monsters instructions. They choose 2 techs, and they can reroll their monster dice if they use those techniques. So that's why with the Ace, she can do stuff like give them extra bonuses on the commanded actions, because they're meant for battle. And then monsters each get their own techniques. That's where I've not fleshed out all of the techniques, because it is a lot of stuff to do. I've come up with 5 base moves for each typing, because there are a type chart of, I think, 18 or 20 types. There are 16 types. Each tech that a monster can learn, I haven't decided if it's based on their typing specifically, or if they're, because each monster is going to get 3 types, up to 3 types, and so I might, not sure yet if I want to limit the type of moves they get to that, what type they are, meaning monsters with less types get less move access, and then maybe buff what's good with them. Maybe I'll like buff those moves based off of how many types they get. Like mono types get maybe like a +3 to something, dual types a +2 to something, triple types a +1 to something. Maybe, I don't know. I guess that would make dual types really powerful, but whatever. Basically, a technique has, they have their typing, whether or not they're a physical, elemental, or status technique. They have certain traits. Move traits might be like whether or not it's ranged or melee, if it only affects the self, if it heals, if it creates a condition, those types of things. Those are the different traits that a tech would list. The stress point cost, how many stress points it costs to use it. Actions, how many actions it takes to use it. And then what the effect is. So, for instance, I know I have one listed out. Yeah, so for instance, I have a move called Shining Claw. It is a light type ability. It's a physical. Ailment means it gives a condition. I think I reworded what instead of ailment. I think I changed that at some point. But so it gives a condition and it's melee. It costs 2 stress points, 2 actions. Its tech die is a 1d6. So attacking with it, you do your accuracy, 2d6 plus action, and then or 2d6 plus smarts, and then you would do 1d6 plus your action to do the damage for this. And then if it hits also, it blinds them for 1d4 plus smarts rounds. It's like the only move I have statted out. So here's where I'm coming to an idea that I had that I'm not sure. I considered almost completely reworking my other game, Realm Breaker, to do this, and I don't know if I like that yet. So I was thinking I might implement it in here where moves have priority in it, like moves themselves have an initiative to them, and then the techniques happen based off of that technique. Like the order of operations will happen based off those techniques. But then I'm like, if 2 monsters are using a priority 1 move, who goes first? So I'm like, I guess I could still have initiative at that point, but then also I couldn't do the 4 actions the way I was doing it. And I guess I'd have to rework a lot of that. So maybe I won't do that. It was an idea I really liked, but it's hard to justify, I think. Because I think a lot more of this game is rooted in the 4 actions than I thought it was. So, yeah, I guess initiative might stay the way it was, where it's, I might mull it over a little bit more, but overall I think, yeah, working it out through this, I think that I definitely, while I like the idea of initiative on moves, it's hard to do in this context. Unless, I mean, if you planned out your entire turn before you went, like if there was a phase where everyone chose what they were going to do first, and then you chose your 4 actions and it had priorities to it, maybe that would work. But again, you'd have to still know who goes first, and that might add some complexity. That's not necessarily what people want to do. Though, God, that sounded a lot more like how I wanted to do Realm Breaker from the start. Maybe I will rework. Maybe. Hey, listener. Maybe I will rework Realm Breaker's battle system. Maybe I will. I'll keep you updated. That's mostly it for Mon of War. I have things like that I'm working on, like, okay, well, does weather do something? Does weather change anything? Each monster has a base stat. Their base stats are based off of whether or not they're a weak monster, a tough monster, powerful monster, stuff like that. And each of those different labelings has a different base stat that that their ability or their stats are based off, like a weak person, like like your trainer has a 1, a 1, a 2, a 2, and a 4 that get put into these base stats. Again, each monster has a static base stat, but each trainer can choose where those goes, where each of those 5 stats go. But honestly, that's about it. I have items, but that's kind of in a brainstorming ability. I don't want to get too far into items until I have this game more fully fleshed out, because then the items can help me choose what I want to do with it. I do have an entire class based on items, or 2 classes based on items, but I have something like kind of structured, kind of carved out, like the different types of items, but I haven't fully made actual out the items because I don't know how to balance it just yet. Okay, I keep saying this, but that's it. That's all I really got for this game right now. If you've been paying attention to my social media at all, you might have. I'm on Blue Sky. I was posting this, and now I also have it on Kara, and I was streaming it for a bit too on Twitch at Slimebasher. I did draw out all the monsters. There's about 20 monster lines, and so there's a lot more monsters when you take into in all the evolutions that I give them. Again, evolutions, I'm not sure if they're going to be permanent or if they're just transformations that happen in battle or something yet. But I'll figure that out. But I have drawn them all, so you can check those out if you'd like. On Blue Sky and Bumblescum, on Kara and Bumblescum, and I should have those posted somewhere. More reliable, you'll see them on Kara. Okay, so the next game I want to go through, and I'm officially doing it. We're officially here. I've been saying it for so long. We are looking at Realm Breaker card game. Okay, so the card game I made in like 2016, 2017, and I didn't like it. I brought it with me to Gen Con. I wanted to test it out there. I didn't really get the chance to, but I made proxies. I made this whole thing, and I just still so unhappy with it. So I've been working on it again, but I'm still not exactly where I want to be with it. The base premise is you have your Magic Knights, your M Knights. They'll have HP, and they have 2 sides to them. They have the normal side and a shifted side. The shifted side gives them extra stuff. So the stuff that they have on a knight is they have their HP, they have a style, a card style that they're, whether that's Brawl, Magic, Tech, Hunter, Realm, or Void. And using cards of those types are cheaper for that M Knight. So for instance, the M Knight Agent Zero has an affinity for tech. So using tech cards costs cheaper, or tech attacks cost cheaper. Every card. So basically, you have your knight, and you have your deck. Your deck you never run out of. You just shuffle it back together when you're out of it. So like you just, if you use up your deck, you just shuffle it back together, and you just keep going. You go until someone loses all of their M Knights. The shifted side has basically a new, a second affinity that they're good at. and then each knight has an edge. I love the term edge for techniques and feats and stuff like that. So they have their edge. So for instance, Agent Zero has the edge Resource War, costing 1 physical card, 1 physical energy, and 1 tech energy. Your attack gains drain 1. It sounds like nonsense right now, but when you're shifted, you gain a second ability. So for instance, he gains the second affinity of Brawl and the second edge Informed for 1 technique energy, 1 tech energy, negate 1 upgrade for the turn. So mainly what I'm saying is that they get extra stuff by shifting. The way they shift is that when they are fully, I believe it's when they're fully kitted out with upgrades, they get to shift. Yeah, every 4 talisman that you attach, your opponent shifts their knight. So yeah, it's not when you get kitted out. So upgrades are talismans, like you would from the ttrpg. Talismans you get through defeating M-Beasts. M-Beasts are a part of the game. You have them in your deck. When you beat an M-Beast that's out in play, you get to draw a talisman card and then use that as an upgrade. If you upgrade your guy with all 4 upgrade slots, your opponent can shift their knight and they get better. More HP, stuff like that too. So, the main thing about this game really is I am unhappy with how combat works. Initially, I did it where you have a gambit, where you chose specific cards and you played them in order, and you both flipped over one after each other. And it was like who could predict the other person, whether or not that's through attacks or blocking. But I just was never happy with how that worked out. Each of the different card types. I'll explain some of the card types, actually. So the card types are, so like I said, there's Brawl, Magic, Tech, Hunter, Realm, and Void. There are, each of those are the style of cards. Then the different types of it are attacks, events, blocks, and stratagems. If you get a stratagem, that kind of stays in play, and that is like helps you with your different stuff, like gives you a static effect throughout the thing. I was gonna say, I guess there's also locations, but they just don't stay in your deck. Locations are also static things. At the beginning of the game, you and your opponent each choose a location that you add, and then that gives a static rule to the game. So for instance, if someone has the Coliseum location out, you both get +1 to your hand size. Locations can shift too. There's a lot of cards that shift locations. So for instance, if you shift the Coliseum, hand size becomes +2 instead. But so I want to stick to this, the attack type. So attacks do damage or effects to your opponent's knights. Blocks help stop those type of things. Some blocks will block any type of card. Some blocks will only block like physical attacks, things like that. So you really have to be aware of what kind of blocks, what kind of decks you're playing against in that way. Events also do something. Events you can play outside of, you have your turn, and then you go into, you get to play all of your events, and then you guys go into combat and you choose your attacks and your blocks. The events, so for instance, they do different things. So like, for instance, Brawl has Sucker Punch as an event. That just does a damage to someone. Second Wind as an event. That restores HP to someone. Did I call them stratagems in one of them and tactics in the other? Yes, I did. Ignore that I called them a stratagem. I call them tactics. Your tactics gives a specific rule. So for instance, Red Rush as a tactic gives you the static ability for 1 physical, return a physical card from your discard pile to your hand. And then each knight has a trait, has traits to them. So for instance, Agent Zero has the traits Atom and Earth. There's a character who has the trait, Alistair has a trait called Renegade. If he is being played with Red Rush, a Renegade gets to return any card instead, not just that one physical card. They get to choose any card. So it gives you a little bit more bonus for playing different characters specifically with different tactics. So like certain things like the attacks, for instance. Let's see. Adrenaline Hit is an attack. It costs X amount of energy. Energy itself is just any kind of ability. So like if I want to do this, I can discard from my hand any amount of cards I want, and that does plus that X divided by 2 damage. So when you're using certain things, they'll have that cost, and the cost you just discard from your hand. Certain things will have, where is it? Magic. So for instance, there's an attack called Test Shot, and that costs 2 magic to use. So if you have the affinity of Brawl and you use that, you have to discard 2 magic cards from your hand to use this attack. If you have the affinity of Magic, it costs 1. It just costs, each card counts as 2 energy. So if you're affinity Magic, 1 card will be enough to use this ability. So that way your affinity is also helping you choose kind of what style of cards you want to play. You don't have to, you can mix and match. Your deck can be you could have like several of every type of card in your deck. It's just whether or not that, whether or not that gels with your character abilities. So you start with 1 knight, and you have the ability to add allies as well. So they'll be in your deck as well, I believe. I believe so. There's a lot of changing that I've been doing. Yes, okay, I believe. Yeah, your allies, like monsters, they'll stay inside your discard, or you're inside your deck, and eventually when you draw them, you can play them. Now, here's where, again, I'm unsure how I wanted the combat to go. My second attempt at this, I made a grid. I believe it was a 4x3 grid. And my idea was monsters get placed in that grid, and I don't really know what else I was thinking with that. Because I also have on that same field, I have a slot for your knights, so they technically wouldn't go on that grid. And I didn't really write my notes down for what that meant, other than I know that the monsters fill up that grid. And I'm like, I just don't know how I feel about that yet. So that's mostly why, that's why I've been putting it off for so long. We're talking about, even though I said like at the end of every episode, I'll talk about the card game. We'll talk about the card game. It's because I don't know how I want the combat to go. I like the idea of having to predict what your opponent will do. I like the idea of you have your cards in your hand and you choose some of those cards. Those are the cards that you'll get to use. I just don't know yet how I want it to play out from there. It could just be that you each get a turn playing one of the cards from your hand or blocking or whatever. I think that's too similar. I love the Dragon Ball Z card game, but I think it's too similar to that for what I want. I don't think it's good enough to the idea that I have. Like, it's just not in line. So I'm still trying to decide how I want that kind of to go. Because I like that idea of that predicting. You have your gambit, you have your stratagem or whatever, and you have to predict what they're going to do. But I just don't know, you know? I guess each monster, I'll just go over some of the other things in here that aren't your Brawl, Magic, tech stuff. The other different kinds of cards. So allies work just like your knights. Locations, like I said, they give a static rule or bonus to, or not a static because they can shift. They give a rule or bonus to the match. You get your talismans, which give you certain things depending on what slot. You have a head slot, an arm slot, a leg slot, and a body slot. Each of those slots has a different ability based on what. So like water, or gives you, if you put in your head for 1 physical, your block gains 1 backlash. Backlash just means that you do damage back to the opponent. I don't really feel like going into all the different conditions I have on these. I don't think it's necessarily relevant at the moment, especially while I work on how I want that combat phase to work out. But yeah, so like each talisman has a different ability depending on which slot they're in, and there's 15 different talismans that you can have in the game. You get them through Magic Beasts. Magic Beasts, there are 11 Magic Beasts, and they each have 2 different talismans associated with them. So you might put out a Magic Beast that has, like, for instance, Living Water as a Magic Beast. It can take 3 damage before dying. When it dies, you can either fish out a water or an acid talisman from your deck. Or no, sorry, not add. You just draw a talisman, but these determine what talismans get added to your talisman pool, basically. Or, you know what, maybe you should just be able to draw it. I think that makes sense. Just fish them out, one of those 2. But then if it comes back up again, then you're kind of not getting anything from that monster. So I think in general, yeah, you should just draw 1, but these talismans that they have lists what kind of talisman you add to your pool of talismans. And they each have their own effects. So for instance, Living Water endure half, which means that from physical or brawl or tech attacks, they take half damage from. To defeat an opponent's knight, you do have to finish through all of the monsters and allies that are there, I think. At least allies. Allies you have to get through. I feel like M-Beasts you have to get through, which is a pain. Because then nobody gets through. Nobody gets through them all, if that's the case. Yeah, I swear I had some documents flipped out, like written out with some more of the changes I had. But the most recent document I have does not actually have the combat step that I was thinking of, because this is the old combat stuff. So I'm kind of working from scratch on this again. I think there was a draft where I had move cards as types of cards, and that's why I had the grid. Is I think I initially had people out there and moving and doing something like that. But that to me is just too much for this card game. And then eventually I was trying it with a different card game. But I didn't like that card game, so I deleted it. So yeah, I don't really have much more out of this. I like the card game. I really need to make proxies, and then it's hard to do because I need proxies because I'm much better at physically testing the card game than I am about theoretically testing out the card game. I like that physical, tactile nature, and it helps me think better. But doing proxies, oh my gosh, I did it the first time, and it sucks. I hate it so much doing having to like worry about proxies, and it costs way too much money to design and print them off. So I just don't want to do that either. But I'll get there somewhere once I feel happy with an idea for the actual battling, the actual combat step. Then we will. I'm still thinking about how I want combat to go in Realm Breaker, the ttrpg as well. I'm not opposed to changing it, but I do like the system I've got now. It's just, I have this idea for a system but I just don't have a game that I've implemented it into well. It might go into Mon of War. It might go into Realm Breaker. I really like the initiative, like the priority moves as a system. And I don't want to make a fourth game that I don't have an idea for based around that, because I just don't have an idea yet for it. So we'll see how I work out with those. So Realm Breaker might do something. If you hadn't checked it out already, Lines Draft is up on the Patreon. It's in the $1 tier. You can get access to that information. That rules document comes with a spreadsheet for all of the monsters and a spreadsheet for NPCs or human enemies. And it also has the ability you can use that one. There is a character sheet attached to it through Excel or through like your spreadsheet, not necessarily a full character sheet. Just because I thought it'd be easier to manage in the spreadsheet than it would be for me to design a character sheet at this stage of the game. Again, there's always the Patreon. If you'd like more content, I do release Gluttony and Earth a week early, unedited, for people who just want the unedited versions. So that's just a week early. That's also in the I think right now I have it as $1 tier and $5 tier. I might just put everything at the $1 tier for now, just because I don't really see the value of having the $5 tier just yet. I wanted to make it $3 tier, but Patreon was like, no, make it a $5 tier. People will do that. And I'm like, I don't know about that. I don't know if people are going to pay me $5 right now. I don't think I'm doing enough with it. So check out the Patreon. That's the Interdimensional Library. I've been posting tokens that I made. I'm thinking of posting more stuff from that. Next month, I haven't really decided what kind of like rules stuff I'll post next month. It might be my Mystic class from for 5th edition that I made. It might not be, but we'll see. I'll be adding. I have plenty of stuff I can add to it. I just don't know yet what I want to put out there. And then also obviously the rules drafts that are already out for Lines Draft and Realm Breaker. And I won't be putting out Mon of War until I'm satisfied with it. So that's going to be a while. If you'd like, I've been doing art streams on my Twitch channel, Slime Basher, where I've been doing art stuff there, like especially for Mon of War. I have a series of tokusatsu, like Sentai Rangers that I'm also drawing right now. So maybe you'll catch me there. I don't know. And then alongside that, this has kind of just been my update show as well, for all the different things. Gluttony and I'll just do a separate announcement for the holiday break. But hey, if you heard it here first, Gluttony and Earth's recording is on the holiday break. I think I've set it up this year where it's not going to interfere with regular recordings, but it might. I don't know. Probably not. Just because I think we've set it up finally where we're not when it's once a month rather than 4 times a month. It's a lot easier to not have a break in release schedule. But I think that's it. Mon of War. Just need to do stats and do setting, and decide if I care about priority moves. Realm Breaker, I have to work out that combat step. If I work out that combat step, I think I can get a more concrete explanation of the game. But I wanted to address it just because I keep saying that I'll address it, and then I never do. And then check out the other rule systems we've put out, and I just keep repeating the same things over and over again. I think that's... I just play tested a scenario for Delta Green, a Christmas-themed scenario. I don't know if the Fairfield project, when the shotgun scenario happen, like when that contest is. I'll have to look at that when that is, because I think that'd be fun to add to the shotgun scenario. But like I play tested that last night and I really liked it. We'll have to see. We'll see. Oh my gosh, I think it could be running right now even. Oh my gosh. I have to look. Okay, I have to look into this. I have to go figure out whether or not I have to figure this out. I didn't record it, but I will eventually. I'll do a recorded version of it eventually. Okay, that's it. I'm gonna go. I gotta figure this out. All right, bye. See ya. Bye.